Hello everyone. We want to welcome you to this week's webinar. We're here at Evans Golf Club in Kansas City, Missouri. Brenndan and I. As usual, we're brought to you by Medicus Golf and KickX Golf. Today's subject is all about what we call pivot-controlled hands versus hand-controlled pivot. Some of you may have heard those terms. Some of you may not have. We're going to kind of go through it. If you have any questions, put them in the sidebar there, and we'll get to the sidebar. Now, there are certain times where you want to use each one of these. There are certain times when some are more beneficial than others. So, if I was going to get some touch, short game type shots, which one would I use?
You probably do more of a pivot-controlled motion there. So instead of a little bit less handsy, what have you.
Okay, so if we were going to do a, let's say a small pitching motion, okay? I'm going to give you this ball, okay? And why don't you get over here? And so Brenndan's going to show you, this would be what a pivot control would look like. He's just going to take it back so the body and arms move together all through the swing. So it comes out softer. He's going to throw it to me. And so he's using his body to actually propel his arms in the club. Now, if you wanted to add a little speed to it, the body would still be involved, but the arms now would generate the speed. So he's going to swing his arms, and now the ball comes out much faster.
Good catch.
You know, my ninja-like skills. For somebody that would have been a push, right? Hey. Okay. So if you're using the body, that again, that's more of a body-oriented swing, and the hands and arms are just kind of along for the ride. But first, let's define what the role of the body is. All right. So the pivot in our world consists of the feet, knees, hips, and shoulders. Yep. They have tons of variations, which is not applicable today. But the body's job is to do a couple of things. It's to give us balance and to give us support. Now, the other key item in that, it is also used, though, to transport the arm swing. So we're not saying that your arms just go like this. I mean, that is swinging your arms, but your body's not doing anything.
Right.
So you wouldn't hit shots very far doing that. Although you could hit them pretty solid, you at least wouldn't go very far. So the big difference is when the pivot is controlling the arms, we're basically doing that with a lot less force and a lot less accuracy.
Yeah. So if you can also demonstrate it. A demonstration that you use sometimes is, let's give you that stick there. So now, if you just do that same motion you were doing, just more of a body motion.
Right, and I'm just going to use one arm for this. So I'm just going to turn back, turn through. Here's the club squish. And now I'm going to add arms with the body. A lot more because I'm actually swinging my arms, but my body's helping transport that.
Exactly. So that's a great visual and a great picture for people to kind of get an understanding that it's not necessarily doing one by itself or the other by itself. They've got to go together.
They've got to have a blend.
Yes.
Right. So again, but if I'm going to hit the shortest, softest type shot, or if I'm hitting, let's say, a pitch shot 40, 50 yards in the end, I'm going to focus more on what I want the body to do. And you see a lot of the world's greatest players, they all do that when they're hitting their wedges.
Yeah.
Most of them are using pivot control hands. They're not using a lot of independent hand motion.
Yeah, right. They're trying to dial in the distance in the field. That's where, those guys can dial that distance in by just simply controlling this motion.
Right.
Versus a lot of amateurs say that we give lessons to, well, I don't know how hard I hit it. Well, that's because it's more like that. So, it's going to be all over the board.
Right. So, and a well-bladed wedge goes as far as a good drive on some days.
Yes,
right?
true. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Most amateurs are trying to use the wrong technique.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying to really speed that club up with their hands and arms. And for those shorter shots, you really don't need to do that.
Right.
So, we've got a couple of tools here. This is a what's called a core links, and this is by Medicus as well. And it's a little thing that you can attach to your belt, and you put it under whatever arm or both arms. So if I'm really working on a pivot control motion, and I'll go there so you can see if they drop. If I get up here and I get my arms too fast, you can see that I just dropped both of them. Fortunately with this, because it's attached to my belt, I don't have to lean down and pick it up. Some players use towels for that. But that's what they're trying to feel. They're trying to feel the body and arm connection without the independent arm motion. Now, I can really fire this arm. You notice only one of them dropped.
Yeah.
Because I'm making this swing with my arms, okay, in concert with my body.
Yeah.
So that's a really good way to try to narrow down and see which one you're working on. All right, now what we have, we have all kinds of little gadgets here today. This obviously is a rope on a ball on a rope here. And if I took that up to the top of the swing, and now I just move my body, that's going to come out this way. And it doesn't have, again, any speed. But if I took it up here at the top, and now I use the body and arm combination, that'll swing outward. So I'm using body and arms there, right? Not just body.
We see a ton of that.
Yeah.
You know, people get people get up here and they think the first thing they've got to do is simply go like this.
Right.
Because again, they think that that's power.
Right.
Well, like we were talking earlier, it's a blend of both, especially on the full swing shots.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to feel the arms doing some things by themselves, not necessarily connected into here full swing wise.
Right, right. And, you know, occasionally we like to give kudos or whatever to some of our members, or basically they call us throwing them under the bus.
That's pretty much what it is.
That's pretty much what it is. You know, one of our members, Hans Ellers, Hans is a big guy. He really wants to get all that bigness into his swing. So he's using a lot of body and no arms.
Yeah.
Right? So go ahead and set up with that. And I'm going to show you a little drill that we do with hands. So when he went to the top of the swing, his normal swing was this huge upper body lunge with no power, but pulling to every shot and he's left-handed, and or a pull cut, right? So I said, all right, so you got all this math. Let's just go up here. Let's hold the shoulders, right, and get the arms coming down quicker. Get the club head to the ball while you hold the shoulders.
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, and I told him to sit in a chair and practice swinging a club so you can't move.
Yeah.
So the day after our lesson, one of the members texted and goes, boy, Hans' swing looked totally different. I don't know what you told him, but he shot 75 and had 4 birdies and won $35 in skins. So
he's already paying for the lessons.
Yeah, and so I'm on the putting green today. I go, dude, you owe me $350 by percentage of your winnings there. So there's a lot of different ways to do this stuff. You got to figure out what's the best way for you. One of the best videos I think we've ever done, and it involves a chair and a towel. And we've done this before, but just so you can see it again. If I have this chair up here, and again, this is just a regular old towel, I'm not going to wad it up, I'm not going to do anything with it. And I take this back, and now I just use my body, nothing's happening with this chair. There's no pop, and it's not getting hit. Now, if I get up here and I move my pivot and my arms, man, you can hear it pop now. And if you do this a couple times, you'll actually be able to knock this over. Right? So that's all you're trying to do. Give that a shot. To see how the body is influencing, the arms are swinging, but there you go, the body is giving that influence. So the body's transporting the arms so that they can swing.
And notice I got my chair up a little bit more than Chuck did.
Yeah, well, I'm old. But there's lots of different things that you can do with this, right? So, you got anything you want to talk about? Or you ready to get some questions?
Oh, I think, you know, the key thing to take away from it is just understand that there's differences there. So, you know, definitely on the full swing, you know, if you're a player that feels like, man, I'm putting a lot of effort or work into it, well, it's probably because you're doing it like this. Right. So you may want to feel your arms swinging a little bit more.
Right. And when you look at it, I mean, your arms are what's generating the speed.
Right.
So, you know, we talked about the body providing the support and the balance, right? The arms give the shot speed.
Yep.
and the hands give the club face direction.
Yeah.
So you got to have all those little nuances in there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. We got a bunch of questions up here. Let's see where we can start. Okay, let me go over to my box over here, see what we got. Let's see. I don't see any questions here. It says, Frank has a thing that says, why isn't this loading? I don't know what that means, Frank. I guess you're not seeing the thing here. What I don't see is any questions. So, all right, well, I would assume then, based on this, that we don't have any questions. If you do have, they need to come up here pretty quick, because I certainly can't see them. Let me type something in here. Okay, I just put it up there. If anybody has any question, discuss synchronization of body, arms, and timing. Okay, well, we need to define first what timing is. If we're talking about the timing of the golf swing, or if we're talking about the timing in the synchronization or sequence of the body and arms, and it's going to be different for everybody. The example we gave you of him, go ahead and set up again. The example I gave you of him was once he got to the top, he felt like nothing moved except he's trying to get the club head down the ball as quick as possible. Okay, for him, that was his sequence.
Yeah, but if you saw it on video, it probably looked more where everything was going.
Yeah,
like this.
Other players, that might be too much. Now let's do the opposite. Let's go to the top and keep your weight on your. No, go ahead and face. Go ahead and go to the top. Keep your weight on the back and throw your arms like an amateur would. Okay, now for them, it's going to be a different sequence, right? So now you go to the top, and for them, what we're going to feel is this motion along with the guy with that throwing that they just did.
Yep.
All right, so let's go to the top again. You try to throw it, and I'm going to move you. So now I changed the whole sequence. So in that particular sequence, the player had to feel like this held longer than this went.
Yep.
And so, but again, the blend starts for most players from the ground up. For some players, they're going to feel that their upper body kind of moves.
And again, that's a feel, not real.
Right. But that may be their feel, especially if there's somebody that gets tilted and hung back like this. They may feel like they're moving this direction, right, more on top of them.
Exactly.
So, but it doesn't really matter as long as the sequence gets up and the timing gets up to hit the shot that you're trying to hit. It doesn't really matter how you do it.
Right. I mean, like you said, the correct sequence is from the ground up.
Right.
Now, everybody has a different way that they feel things.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about. Even though it may feel like you're swinging all arms, but in reality, if you looked at it on video, you'd see more of the feet, knees, hips, shoulders, hands, and arms. That's the correct sequence. But in your mind, it's not going to feel anything like that.
Yeah, it's going to feel totally opposite of that. So let's see if we have any other questions. I'm thinking that's Dr. John Hu down in Lafayette. If it is, I need some gumbo, dude. Okay, I don't see any. Oh, can you comment on spine tilt and acceptable head movement? Okay, so you basically have a couple of tilts. You have a forward tilt at address. You have a side tilt at impact. Now, some players will set up with a slight side tilt at address, and that's okay. I mean, if setting straight up like this moves your head over here like that, and guess what? Why don't you just tilt right there and make the same swing? All right, that'll eliminate some of the head movement. But the head moves around because of faulty knee action, hip action, and shoulder action. So if those are working correctly, you're going to see some head movement, especially the up and down part, and you'll have a little translation right and left, but not a lot. We don't want to see, or don't like to see players that move over here like this, because I mean that's a long way back to the golf ball, right? Yeah. So we have again different drills to do those type of things, but in fact, one of our guys had a student yesterday, and his head actually went down about this much in the backswing, and then in the downswing it went up about like that.
Yeah.
All right, so the whole issue was his left shoulder had a lot of down. He was, well, actually, his right shoulder, he was a left hand. His left shoulder had a lot of down. What it didn't have was any around.
Right.
So, you know, our suggestion with him is to make your player feel like they're turning their shoulders level. He didn't do that, according to the video I saw, but you know, it was better.
Yeah.
It was better. Made a little change in setup because the guy was stretched out too far. But again, in that particular swing, we were looking at key number 1, right, which was a steady head, and the guy's head wasn't steady, so that was the appropriate area to attack. So you got something you want to add to that?
No, I think the only thing I want to add is just for players that are, you know, it's Masters Week, so everybody's excited,
right?
And you know, everybody's going to be watching all these great players, and you know, there's talk out there as far as these players letting their head drop,
right?
You know, remember, for those of you watching, that those guys have got some great hand-eye coordination. Those players can get away with setting up here, letting the head come down a little bit, and then getting back up to it at impact.
Right.
You know, they're doing that for a reason. Everyday players, it's much more difficult. So, you know, even though you may see Rory do it, you may see, you know, Bubba or some other players do it, that's why we advocate for everyday players, just eliminate that from the get-go.
Right. And if you feel tall through impact versus down through impact, that's a really good start, because if you're feeling tall, at least you're pushing up in the shot. Yeah. So if you hear some noise overhead, because they're upstairs, evidently they're playing ping pong. I don't know what they're doing. But let's see what other questions we have. Okay, here's one from Lee. Well, no, he's answering a question evidently. Frank, comment on pushing off right foot to start downswing. All right, so you can push off with the right foot, or you can not push off with the right foot. Yeah, that might be a trigger for you. Some players use their hips, some players use their left knee, some players feel like they just take all the pressure and they rotate it this way, right? So that's actually more of a hip and knee movement, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you get into the somatics of it, in your right foot, if you're going to concentrate on your right foot coming down, here's the hard part. Your right foot can't go towards target. Your right foot actually has to feel like it's turning that way. Of course, your foot will be on the ground. So your right foot will feel like it's turning to the right as you're trying to start down. When you get to the top, turn it to the right to start down. That's what it should do, but that's really hard for most players to do. So again, you can feel the foot, you can feel the hips, you can feel the knee. It doesn't really matter as long as it gets you in sequence of what you're trying to do.
No, exactly. Everybody's going to have a different feel for everything. I know, me personally, I feel it more in the left hip.
Yeah.
Every time I try to feel it in the feet, it throws my sequence out a little bit. But
right.
For me personally, you know, I feel it when I'm at the top here. I feel it more left hip going. Now, even though I feel it here, it's starting somewhere down here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and same thing. I mean, for me, what I feel like is I feel like I actually set on my right hip.
Yeah.
Right. At the first part of the start down, and then go, because my tendency is to get too much hip side.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to figure out a way what's your tendency and work away from that.
We're opposites.
Yeah. That's why I said it doesn't work for everybody. All right, let's see if we got anything else. We talked about the synchronization. We talked about spine tilt and head movement and pushing off the right foot. So that evidently is all our questions today. So hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, just send them to us. We'll be happy to answer them for you. Can't tell you what next week's going to be yet. We're still working on that, but you'll get an email about it. Again, if you have any questions, just shoot us an email. Until then, we'll see you.